What does this Indo-French partnership mean in real terms? Dr. Mohan Kumar is former India's ambassador to France. He joins us. Nicolas Barr is editor-in-chief, L'Echo Paris, France, and he was the journalist who interviewed Prime Minister Modi. I want to come to you, Dr. Kumar, first, because give us the big picture. We've seen a lot of bonhomie in this visit between India and France. Is this the special relationship that Prime Minister Modi now seems to have with the French president, or is this something that has been built up over the last 25 years that has in a way solidified this relationship?
Thank you very much for having me. I think the latter, if I may say so. It's taken 25 years for these two countries to establish a certain strategic partnership based on trust and confidence. I would make 3 points. Both France and India seek a multipolar world. Both believe in practicing strategic autonomy, and both follow an independent foreign policy. I think what has happened over time is that the two countries are facing an uncertain world. They have decided that they will seek a stable, predictable world to the extent they can. I would make 3 final points. These are two middle powers, both France and India, which are trying to make sense of a world which is on the verge of fragmentation. That's the first. Second, I think really that India can offer to France and EU a chance of de-risking from China by offering itself as an alternative. And last but not least, I think France has come to the conclusion that no global problem can be solved without India. I'm not saying India is capable of solving all problems, but I'm saying that it is not possible to tackle climate change. It is not possible to tackle food security. It is not possible to tackle public health. It is not possible to tackle terrorism without India. And therefore, France has taken a calculated bet on India. I would make one final point, which is that the fact that the Prime Minister's visit to France comes so close on the heels of a hugely successful visit to the United States is itself an ultimate expression of India's strategic autonomy.
Interesting viewpoints there, Dr. Kumar. I just want to come to Nicolas Barr at the moment. Nicolas Barr, you are the journalist who interviewed the Prime Minister. Give us a sense of how France sees Prime Minister Modi, because we've seen the Prime Minister being warmly received, the guest of honor getting the highest honor. At the same time, we've seen concerns in some quarters over what they call human rights violations, they call nationalism. We've seen it in the European Parliament raising issues in Strasbourg over Manipur. How is Prime Minister Modi perceived by the French establishment?
Yes, you're right. There have been some various reports on the issue you mentioned, criticizing some of the policies that have been conducted by Prime Minister Modi since he came to power since 2014. So yes, we have seen these criticisms. At the same time, I 100% agree with what the ambassador said. France considers that India is absolutely instrumental in helping solving the key global issues that we are facing. We all remember the role that India has played during the COP21 Paris Agreement. India was really instrumental, and it's thanks to this country that we were able to reach an agreement. And another thing is that we share the same, more or less the same views on strategic autonomy. That's something President Macron in particular has been insisting on, that France among European countries is the one that stresses more on the need to for Europe and for our country, for France, to reach that strategic autonomy. And that's an idea or a line that India is also following. That so So yes, there are questions on the current Indian leadership, but I mean what is more important probably is that we have to have this strategic dialogue, and that India is a critical partner in the world, and of course in the Asia-Pacific region in particular, where France has strong interests as well.
In fact, the Prime Minister did mention, of course, the Asia-Pacific region and India's role there. But Ambassador Kumar, you know, the Rafale aircraft agreement, both in 2016, now again, defense cooperation seems to be central to this agreement. There have been question marks. The opposition has raised it over the way the Rafale deal was signed in 2016, alleged favors being provided to a particular industrialist. But do you get a sense that defense cooperation in particular is in a sense central to this relationship because of the nature of the Indo-French cooperation at the moment over these aircraft deals?
I think the Franco-Indian relationship rests on a tripod, which is defense, security, and nuclear. Defense, nuclear, and space, I'm sorry. So these three are the central elements of the relationship. Defense continues to be a central feature, I agree with you, but I think the more exciting things for me are frankly technologies, 6G, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and I'm waiting for a roadmap by the two leaders which will indicate. But to go back to defense, I think it's interesting that when I was ambassador, we conveyed to France that a buyer-seller relationship will not do, because India simply doesn't have the money to keep on buying expensive equipment. What I find interesting is that France has been quick to accept that message, and we are now talking in terms of co-design and co-production. Should that come about, that will indicate a paradigm shift in the defense relationship between India and France. Bear in mind that France has been the best strategic partner, which has transferred almost 100% technology to India, whether it is the Uragan engines, which were called Tufani, whether it is the Alouette engine, which was called Chetak, whether it is the Mirage, or now we are talking of Safran getting in touch with HAL and making engines. So it's been an incremental trajectory in which France has consistently, over time, stood by India and tried to take into account our needs in defense. Secondly, they have done it without an on-again, off-again relationship. Third, they have been sensitive to our feelings that, okay, if we don't want something to be supplied to Pakistan, France has taken that substantially into account. So I cannot think of a more trusted strategic partnership than the one between France and India.
So you're saying it's not a one-sided transactional relationship, am I correct?
You're absolutely right. It is not, because it used to be a buyer-seller relationship 6 years ago when I was ambassador, and even then there was substantial transfer of technology. But I am putting it to you that the key thing to observe in this visit is a paradigmatic shift in the attitude of France, that they will transfer substantial technology and try to make it in India, not just for India, but for third countries.
You know, Nicholas Barr, there's also the people-to-people contact. Very interestingly, yesterday the Prime Minister announced that UPI, our digital transactions, will be available if you travel to the Eiffel Tower and, you know, at the Eiffel Tower. My concern is Indians complain we don't get Schengen visas quickly enough, particularly post-COVID. But at a people-to-people level, do you see this relationship developing in various ways, or do you see it as primarily strategic and the rest will happen over time?
Well, of course, it's more strategic than the rest, but and I agree with what the ambassador said on defense. I would add one thing. The ambassador mentioned nuclear, and that's an area where the French, you know, on defense, they have been cooperating fully and with really a lot of transfers of technology and a lot of two-way cooperation. On nuclear, there's some frustration on the French side that we've been discussing the establishment of nuclear plants for like 15 years, and this project is, I mean, it's very difficult to move forward.
Right.
So we were expecting that with this visit, things would probably move forward. It's still difficult, and so that's one point where there's a little frustration. But on the rest, on defense in particular, it's amazing how the cooperation is going on. For example, Airbus will transfer the production of military aircrafts, you know, of transport aircraft that it's called C295, sorry. And very soon these aircraft, these military aircraft, will be manufactured in 100% in India. Mm-hmm. And there are several other examples like that with Dassault, of course, but also with another company called Safran.
Right.
So there's a really deep will on the French side to go ahead, transfer some technology, and produce these equipment in India.
Right, Nicholas, I'm going to have to leave it there, but it's wonderful to know that the relationship now exists on multiple levels and has become stronger over time. I appreciate you joining us there, and also Ambassador Kumar, thank you very much for giving us, our viewers, a sense of why the French matter.